Why This Film, the podcast where we pick a movie from your childhood, rewatch it, and then have a chat about it. I'm Emily Slade, and welcome back. You watched it so many times before, and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it, and now you show it to your friends, and they're like, what?
What am I watching?
Why?
This?
Why this film? And I'm joined today by Carla. Hello.
Hello.
Hey. Carla has chosen Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, which is a 1991 movie. The IMDb breakdown says 5 siblings are left alone all summer when their mum leaves town and the evil babysitter bites the dust. What's your relationship with this movie?
Well, this is a movie from my childhood that I remember. I wasn't bought it or anything by my parents, but I'm older, probably one of your oldest guests that you've had on, I imagine. 31, ripe old age of 31. And back in those days, people used to basically film movies from TV onto like blank cassettes. And my friend...
Excuse you, I remember that
You
happening.
remember that. And my friend gave me one that had loads of different films on it, and that's where I discovered it, from one of these films.
Oh, amazing.
And then me and my little brother used to just sit in my room and watch this all the time. We had a few films that we watched a lot. This, My Fair Lady, what was the other one? Like Terminator and things like that.
Oh, wow.
This was one of the kids' ones that for some reason we got really obsessed with it, and we just used to watch it all the time. So this, I hadn't seen it for about 15 years before I rewatched it the other day, but it always reminds me of him, this film, and those times together. So
that's really sweet. I've never seen this movie before. I'd sort of heard of it as like one of the cult ones. There's a lot of movies with Babysitter in the title that are like cult movies. But I'd never seen it advertised. I had no idea what it was about. And I was shooked because knowing Carla, you're like a chaotic, neutral anarchist.
Yeah.
And you give me this movie called Don't Tell Mum the Babysitter's Dead, which has this dead woman on the front cover. I was like, this is going to be about a bunch of kids wreaking fucking havoc and going to fucking town on this house, and it's going to be such a stressful watch. It's about fucking responsibility.
Yeah.
It's about financial understanding. It's about it's a coming of age movie.
Totally.
In such a big way. I honestly thought I was going to have to watch kids tear wallpaper off the wall and chew it up for 2 hours. But I watched a really mature, incredible, kind of inspiring, really fun movie.
Right, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've been so excited to know what you thought of it.
Yeah.
Because we saw each other a few days ago, and it was like torture not being able to talk about it. And also, I've never met anyone that's seen this movie apart from my brother. I don't know why, because the cast's quite good. It's quite a good film.
It is a really good film.
Watching it the other day, I really felt it held up. It was better than I thought it was going to be, actually.
100%. And that's really interesting because you obviously watched it as a child, so. And then I've come to it for the first time, and honestly, it was a funny, solid movie. It genuinely was. The only thing I say that didn't hold up was the outfits at the end that were a bit 90s and ghastly.
Yeah, I forgot about that bit. And then I was like, what the hell is going on with these outfits? And these were supposed to be school uniforms.
Yeah.
It's definitely, before the Me Too movement, some of those outfits
were awful. Like knockoff Cher from Clueless, just gaudy and nasty.
Yeah, really naff, really tacky, awful outfits. So yeah, that didn't hold up so well.
So basically, this mum has 4 or 5 children.
Yeah, it's 5 kids, isn't it?
5 kids, all with their unique personality.
Yeah.
And she says this wonderful line. She's going on holiday to Australia with her boyfriend because she's had a rough 37 years, which is brilliant. So she goes off, and the kids think Christina Applegate, in her first feature role, is playing the sort of oldest sibling.
Yeah.
And then she's got the next one down from her is like a stoner brother.
Yeah.
And then there's the like young romantic brother, the tomboy girl, and then is there a like
yeah,
a
and then
baby
there's
as well?
he's kind of like Mike TV from
Yeah.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
yeah.
and he's just obsessed with
Obsessed with
television.
but it's educational television. He's not watching like car wrecks or anything. He's watching like quiz shows.
Yeah, game shows and like
Yeah.
cookery shows, how to bake chocolate
So
gâteaux and things like that.
Really smart kids. So the mum leaves, and Christina Applegate thinks she's got the house to herself and it's going to be a really fun summer. And then, of course, the babysitter turns up, who's this lovely old lady who like can't walk properly. And then, of course, the minute the door slams behind the mother, this woman turns into like Hitler babysitter.
She brings out a whistle.
Yeah, and it's really funny. And she goes through, and I read that originally. It was meant to be sort of a murder mystery where you weren't sure if one of the kids had killed the babysitter.
Really?
And they sort of still kept that in with establishing the babysitter does something to each child to like fuck them up.
Yeah.
She like makes the boy dump his girlfriend. She
puts Melissa who's the baseball girl in like a pink dress.
Pink dress with bows. And I did write down, she makes the Mike TV one, she like turns the TV off and gives him like a massive encyclopedia, and she's like, I want a report on the aardvark by tomorrow morning. And I did put in my notes, and I was like, that does sound kind of fun, I'm not gonna lie.
No, none of her, and to be fair to the babysitter, she's got 5, because the mother's leaving for 2 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's a
Imagine
long time.
leaving your
One of
kids
them's, like,
for 2 months
5.
over summer, and then this babysitter that's that old turns up, and you're just like, bye.
Yeah.
Chucks a packet of money at her, has like literally a 2-minute conversation, and then fucks off. And like, it's like supposed to be like the late 80s or early 90s. You expect the boyfriend to turn up in some like beautiful sports car.
Yeah.
And she gets on this shitty shuttle bus thing. It's like, what the fuck is going on here? And then there's the really funny bit with Kenny the stoner, and his friends like, dude, isn't your mom like going away for like 2 months? And he's like, oh yeah, bye mom. Yeah, so I mean, I can see why she wants to go away for 2 months and leave them. And then the father seems to be out of the picture.
Completely out of the picture. They do make reference to him in a way that's like, don't bother talking to Dad.
Doesn't give a shit.
The house is a fucking tip.
Yeah.
And I honestly spent the entire movie like, I can't wait for the inevitable
clean up
house.
The inevitable house makeover.
I know it's coming. I don't know in what context, but someone at some point is going to have to clean this house. This is the Chekhov gun of cleaning.
Totally.
And like, I was so excited. I love a good clean-up scene. And
I know.
And I was just like, any minute now, someone's going to have to clean
Someone's going to clean.
And it's like disgusting.
Yeah. And they did a good job of making it feel quite stressful to watch the scenes in the kitchen because it looks such a mess and so shitty.
And yet your eyes are still drawn to what's important. Like the tabletops are full of junk, but you can always see the like cash register where the little boy keeps stealing
money from.
So Christina Applegate. So the babysitter fucks everyone off, and then the next morning, she's dead.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? And they started like trying to sort it out themselves, and I was like, what? I was literally shouting at the TV. I was like, don't fucking put that woman in a dumpster. Like, oh my god, you have like, oh god. Thinking that we were going to suddenly cut to shallow grave and they were going to have to pick straws out to chop her into pieces. But no, it's actually quite sensible. They put her in a trunk.
Although I must say, they are rather unconcerned for like quite young. I mean, can you imagine if like someone had just died in your home?
That body is scary, and they had to move it.
Yeah, they actually moved it.
Like, oh, it's nasty.
Yeah,
it'd be
but
like cold and
they're pretty untraumatized by it, and they're like, right, we'll just sort this out ourselves. Basically, because they don't want their mother to come back.
Literally,
yeah.
They were like, we can't tell mum because like she needs that break, and we need a break from mum. So
we can have a free summer.
We'll just chuck her in the trunk and leave her outside the morgue with a fucking post-it note on it saying, "Lovely old lady inside, please look after." Which was hilarious. And then these two coroners come out and they're like, what the fuck is this? And it's very, very clever. And then you genuinely forget about the babysitter.
Yeah, you do.
In the title, it suddenly becomes about Christina Applegate growing up.
Yeah.
Because she gets a job in a shitty fast food place.
Yeah,
like
Clown Dog.
Oh, it looks nasty. With the guy from Kimmy Schmidt.
I haven't seen Kimmy Schmidt. Is this the guy, Josh Charles?
Josh Charles, yeah.
I've seen him in other stuff, though.
Hot. He's cute,
isn't he?
Yeah, he's like the perfect 90s boyfriend. He's like really sweet and funny and down to earth and clearly okay with himself as a person. Yeah, he would not be cast now. Yeah.
People like that, there's a certain look.
Yeah, well, in Kimmy Schmidt, he plays the, douchebag.
Right.
Like, in charge of this big corporation, massive capitalist, cheats on his wife, because of the face he's got. But in this, it's like, he's not quite bad boy, he's not quite stoner.
He's sweet, non-threatening.
He's just a decent, that sort of fucking Breakfast Club.
Estevez.
Yeah.
Yeah, him, the jock. The jock guy,
Yeah, that's sort of, who's the director of Breakfast Club? John Hughes. That was painful.
I just keep saying surnames.
Estevez. Hughes.
This reminds me a bit of a John Hughes. It's not quite as good, but it reminds me a bit. It's got a flavour.
Yeah, it is. It's got a flavour of the John Hughes vibe. I think it's a bit less twee than John Hughes, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Not to say that this movie is particularly dark. It's set... Do you know what it is? It's set in the adult realm, and the adults are on your side a lot of the time. Whereas in most kids' movies, especially coming-of-age movies, you're not allowed to be friends with your parents. You're not allowed to, have supportive adult figures unless they're a weirdo from the outside, like the janitor.
Yeah.
Whereas here, and I kept expecting it to happen, so she fucks off out of the fast food joint, because obviously, and tries to apply for this receptionist job after lying on her CV.
Yeah.
And she goes in to this big workplace, fashion.
It's into fashion, yeah. I think she's decided... I like fashion.
Yeah.
Because there's the bit that you see at the start where she's annoyed that she can't go to Europe with her friend. And it's as if she's kind of part of more of a mainstream popular girl crew, probably.
Yeah, definitely.
And then her brother sort of represents the more alternative,
outsider,
stoner, heavy metal thing. So I think that kind of there's a recurrence of that where she then tries to get into the fashion industry.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd ever paused the boss looking down on her CV, and just some of the lies she put on her CV were ridiculous, 3 years at Barney's, 2 years at Bloomingdale's, assistant at Calvin Klein, just
literally
ridiculous.
And I love that no one questions it. Well, some people do, but they're the villains of the piece. The good guys are just great, do you want to come work for me instead, be my personal assistant? And the woman that she gets the job under is Dolores from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, is she? I haven't seen that one for ages.
No,
That's
it's
a good one.
And she's lovely.
Loveliest boss ever.
And literally, and I kept waiting for her to turn on her or suddenly have a go at her, and it never happens. She just remains this lovely, supportive person. And it's so wholesome. This woman's just really fucking nice.
Really nice.
You just feel so much safer about the whole thing, because Christina Applegate is having a time of it throughout this movie. And this woman is always there for her. And she, even when the truth comes out, she still just believes her.
I know, even when she discovers, Sue Ellen gets away with fucking everything.
Yeah.
She just lands on her feet. So her boss finds out that she's been giving her work to someone else, because obviously she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing because she's 17, and she's been giving her work, manipulated some poor girl at work who didn't get the job, who applied for it, called Kathy, but who's really nice, to sort of do her work, and she gets that gets revealed, but the boss is just like, oh my god, your delegation skills are second to none, Sue Ellen. And it's like, got away with that one.
Yeah, literally. And I was thinking, I was like, oh, they're setting it up so this poor woman can then become the new sort of PA once Sue Ellen gets found out. That's never really established. That's never really... This woman is just sort of used and abused.
I know. There should have been a bit... That's one criticism. There should have been a bit where you see something good happen.
Yeah, because I was just expecting... There was a lot of planting of it. Like, oh, I applied for it. I apparently wasn't good enough. But then she sort of proved throughout the course of the movie that she is good enough for the role because she's been doing Sue Ellen's work for her.
Yeah.
And so I was just expecting at the end Sue Ellen to be like, give like Marie the job. By the way, but that maybe it was just cut for time.
Yeah, it could have been.
But in my head, that woman now has her job,
and it felt like that's where
it was going.
Yeah, and as well, she comes in really poorly one day as well. There's the bit where she comes in like pajamas, but still earrings on, and she's like, "Oh, I've got this QED report for Sue Ellen.
Sue Ellen, it's super important." Her voice. Who is she? She's Kimmy Robertson.
Apparently she does a lot of cartoons.
Yeah, I bet she would with her voice.
Brilliant voice. There are a lot of good voices in this movie.
Oh yeah, she's the feather duster in Beauty and the Beast, so that's cool.
Is she, what, the original Beauty and the Beast?
Yeah.
Oh, that's my Beauty and the Beast. That's my favourite Disney. One. Yeah.
It was mine until The Princess and the Frog.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, you've got to.
I have to watch that one then.
And yeah, so she starts work at this company and she realises that she's going to be on an actual like salary.
Yeah.
So she comes home and she's like, right, I'm working, so you look after the kids, Stoner brother, and sort the house out. And of course he doesn't.
No, because he's stoned the whole time.
It is very stressful that she comes home and she's like, why haven't you mowed the lawn? And like, it's very clever, you start feeding in all the stuff that the mum wanted them to do.
Yeah.
They start putting on Sue Ellen, and even though it's not really pointed out, you're very much like, I see what you're doing.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
She's learning how difficult it is to be an adult, and like, that's really cute. And it goes on for ages. She brings home the petty cash from the office just to like pay for food because none of them are like,
she's waiting for... Well, there's a really silly bit where they're having that conversation at Chuck E. Cheese about how she's waiting for a paycheck and they've got no money, and they come out and they go, we've got no money, and it's like, why did you go and eat out at Chuck E. Cheese, you fucking dicks?
And then their fucking car gets stolen.
That's a really weird bit that I don't really get, where their car gets stolen by these drag queens, but like, why is my... Yeah, that's what... Because obviously I didn't really... When I was a kid, you don't think about... There were loads of stuff that I picked up, and this...
It does that.
This second time that I hadn't noticed properly before, and that was because I think I always, as a child, just accepted and didn't question it. But it's like, is the movie making a comment? Like, what's the comment? And I thought, what is that bit about? It's funny, or is it just because it's funny, the absurdity of drag queens stealing your car?
Literally, I honestly don't know. Like, unless there was some like hidden agenda where, but it is painted as like funny.
Yeah. I can see why it is funny, but then there was also something. Is it making a is it making a comment, or I don't know?
Because they're dressed as like Marilyn Monroe, Liza Minnelli, and like Barbara Streisand or something, and they just hijack the car, and they're like, our car, but it wasn't their car.
It's almost like two movies have met. And it's like, wait, what's this movie?
That movie's going off on a different road
somewhere
trip.
else, and that's kind of in the middle of that one, and that's in the middle, and they've sort of crossed over for a second. But I really want to know what happens in that one as well.
True. Oh my god! So she gets Brian to come pick them up in his like
Brian from Clown
embarrassing mobile. So Brian is the brother of the original receptionist that
Caroline, I think that's her name, Caroline.
Yes, Caroline.
She's her opening scene's so amazing, where she's like, she's just being such a bitch to Sue Ellen, and she's like, you have come to reception. You were supposed to go to personnel. There's a big sign saying personnel. So fucking good.
It's so mean. Immediately you're like, fuck you.
You're like, fuck you fucking bitch. This is why Rose didn't hire you absolute bastard.
So she stays in her normal receptionist job, and Sue Ellen gets the one that she was going to go for, working under Rose. So then she's like got it in for Sue Ellen.
Yeah, totally.
And you're right in that she just completely lands on her feet, because every time she gets close to figuring out the truth, and she does so many times, she's like, what did she do? Like, she must have lied on her resume. And everyone's like, no, that can't possibly have happened.
Yeah,
and this woman's like, she clearly did. Like, what the hell? And then she's like, she's stolen all the petty cash. Look, we found it. We've opened it up. And the other guy's like, oh no,
they've got receipts.
It's all receipts. It's all legit.
It's all legit, yeah.
You're like, for fuck's sake. So yeah, the other random character that like is her like cohort in this like
her
villainy.
boyfriend, yeah.
Oh, is it her boyfriend?
Yeah, who also works.
Yeah,
who's also got it in for Sue Ellen, because they have some interaction right at the beginning.
When she's being a bitch to him.
Yeah, she's being told, she's like, run along upstairs and do this and do it, and she's not being pushed around, which is quite cool. So
it's pretty cool.
He doesn't like her.
So that's David Duchovny from X-Files. Pre-X-Files as well. So it was really weird seeing him in this movie.
Yeah, and I remember that being weird as a kid, because I used to watch X-Files and I found it so terrifying. And it was one of those things where you see a really familiar actor in something else that's just nothing like that. Yeah. And you're like, wow. They can do anything. Imagine I could do that one day.
Maybe I should go to drama school.
Yeah, exactly. 15 grand later.
And Caroline is the sister of Brian, which is a really cool little
link.
Yeah,
that helps tie the whole thing up.
Yeah, it's clever. It's nice, because I honestly expected to never see that receptionist again. But then, of course, she becomes like a main character, and I was like, oh, this is what a good movie does. It introduces characters and stays with them. So she keeps coming home, and the house just gets messier and messier, and the kids aren't like eating properly, and the stoner brother is just refusing to do anything. And then the little brother climbs up onto the roof to sort the satellite out.
Yeah, but Kenny's getting stoned with all of his friends, and he's become obsessed. He's become obsessed with making waffles. He's watching some kind of cookery show when he's stoned with his little brother, and he becomes obsessed with making waffles. So that's all they're doing that summer, is like getting stoned and making waffles. And the little boy goes to fix the TV.
And obviously falls off the roof, because he's like 7.
Yeah.
And thank God he only breaks his leg, which leads to a really funny, cute scene in the office where there's a phone call for Sue Ellen, and it's like, what? My son's in hospital, I've got to go. And she's like, I didn't know you were married. I'm not, I'm divorced. I hate talking about it. Bye!
You gotta
go. Because, of course, Rose has this on-off boyfriend who also works for the company.
Yeah, sleazy Gus.
Who is also trying to come on to Sue Ellen because she's 17 and hot. And I think I wrote a note about it. I was like, this fucking dude is like playing it perfectly. Like, the actor is playing
he's so
it
good
perfectly. That horror, like, it's still quite goofy to get away with on a kids movie. But it's that really horrible, like, we could just have sex right now if you want. Which is, again, it's in a kids' movie, and I'm watching it as an adult and I didn't think anything of it. But just saying that line just then, I'm suddenly like, fuck me. If I was watching this at 7, I wouldn't have a fucking clue what he was talking about. And it's really creepy that he's coming onto a 17-year-old and asking her to have sex with him. Yeah. But he's like, yeah, we could have sex right now if you want. And then she's like, oh my God, leave me alone. And he's like, oh, I was only joking. Like, it wasn't real, just a joke. And you're like, actually go throw yourself under an oncoming car. Like, oh my God, you are the worst kind of person. Like,
and unfortunately, Rose is so in love with this guy.
Besotted. And I was really worried that they were setting up this woman-hating woman subplot where Gus is going for Sue Ellen is trying to hide it behind Rose, and then they're going to find out and have a tiff. But when it does all come out, Sue Ellen's like, Gus has been sexually harassing me for the past 2 months. Those tickets and flowers were meant to be for me. Sorry, Rose. And Rose is like, what the fuck, Gus?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Gus. And even after he's like, there, see, she's a 17-year-old, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's like, go fuck yourself, Gus.
Yeah.
And I'm like, woo, women supporting women.
He's like, oh, well, you've just found out she's 17. Are you going to believe a 17-year-old? And she's like, yeah, I am actually.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it was so good, and this is why
quite good for 91, isn't it?
So good for 91. This is the thing. I come to all these older movies with such awfully low expectations with what the characters are going to be like. And actually, they're really well-rounded humans. Rose is consistently lovely.
Yeah.
She doesn't randomly hate Sue Ellen because of a man. She hates the man because the man's been exposed to be a bit of a dickhead.
Yeah.
And that's... I shouldn't be this excited about that, but that it's clearly how rare that happens. It's usually the lazy writing is that, like... The women hate on the women over the man.
The woman will have a cat fight now, and we're all supposed to laugh, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I think what was quite interesting watching it again was even something that was very small that we talked about earlier, where Melissa, who's a tomboy in inverted commas, because you know she likes baseball, she likes a sport, so she has to be masculinized. But she's put in a dress and that she doesn't, so that's almost touching on gender fluidity and these types of things. Even back her family, like, obviously accept
100%
the way she is, and then when the babysitter comes in, it's no, we have to feminise you.
Because the babysitter's so old, like the babysitter literally is meant to be like 100 or something. Like she probably fought in the war, and I think that adds to the commentary where it's like, look, the old-fashioned ideal was that gender is very solid.
Yeah.
And then, you're right. The family just completely accepts this girl for who she is, and is like, you just do you, and whatever that may mean, as long as you empty the dishwasher. Yeah,
Kenny supports her at baseball and everything. So. There are really sweet parts with the siblings that are like that were things that obviously as a child you couldn't really notice. You take everything very much at face value.
You don't appreciate it until you've grown up, and then you and your own siblings have like come through the other end of your relationship, and you both realise they're the only person that grew up in the same family environment as you, and therefore you'll always have that in common regardless of what else you don't have in common.
Because no one else can ever understand, apart from your sibling, what it was like growing up. And all the weird sort of family habits that you have.
100%. And it's really sweet, and yet something you do not appreciate at all as a kid. And that's what these kids are doing as well in this movie. They're realising the importance of each other and the family and support. And
it manages to never get saccharine with it, which is what I like about this film. You've got a lot of piss taking and that kind of like, oh, get the fuck out of my room kind of thing, and shut the fuck up and turn the music down, and like that sort of thing. And then you get the supportive parts of it never feel forced, they never feel saccharine, they never make you feel ill.
They never like, here's the message of the movie.
It's not really it manages to still have a kind of punky tone.
It's so true.
Somehow throughout it.
And I think it's literally just because these characters, as much as somebody sat down and was like, right, we need the tomboy, we need the fashion, we need the stoner, and we need the spare. They are fully rounded characters, and they are human, and because of that, we support them in everything that they do, and everything makes sense, and everything like has a journey that we're willing to follow them on. I did read that the young boy... every time I do these podcasts, I'm always like, and then I googled that person, and they're not alive anymore.
Oh, is it the romance boy?
Yeah, so Zach the young romance boy.
Zach the romance boy.
Christopher Pettit died in 2000, aged 24.
Oh, no.
And I don't know how old he was in this movie, but he apparently had a drug problem. And bearing in mind he's like 12... maybe younger in this movie.
Yeah, about 10, 11, yeah.
And he was just one of those child actors
that just,
that suffered under the system, like Drew Barrymore was an alcoholic at 6. And yeah, he eventually died of an overdose, I believe. Which is really sad. And I just always come across these facts and then I can't separate them from the movie. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm always like, there's always an immortalised performance because they then died horribly and tragically in the Hollywood system. And I think it's important to remember these things because Hollywood's nasty and child actors need to be... I mean, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have child actors.
Yeah,
really.
It's a bit of a weird job.
I don't think
for kids,
anyone's come out of it. Even the people that have come out of it the best they possibly can, like Mara Wilson, who got herself through university. Is she the
Mrs. Doubtfire one?
Yeah.
Was she the one? She was like in everything.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, she was in everything.
Literally everything.
But she's a playwright.
Wonderful.
Now or
she's a playwright. She put herself through university.
Yeah.
She writes a lot of articles. She's a bit of a journalist. She guest stars in a bunch of like video essays that I watch on YouTube.
Oh wow.
I follow her on Twitter. She's incredibly articulate, so intelligent, so lovely. But even she's like, I have issues from when I was a child actor, and I mean, again, she lost her mother during the filming of Matilda, which can like
no way.
Yeah,
what? And she just continued to work.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And she's written a really
That's
interesting
insane.
article about how she thinks why a lot of child actors go off the rails.
Yeah,
and it's because like parental control gets less and less, and the studio gets
starts
more and more.
to take over.
So then they're allowed unlimited money, time, freedom, which a child shouldn't have. Whereas she was kept very grounded. She still had to share a room with her sister. She still had to like go to school and stuff like that. So it never went to her head. All of her money was put away, which got her through university, and it was like a hobby for her. And her parents insisted on keeping it at that
There's
hobby
more
level.
to life than this
100%.
in movies and all of this shit.
And she seems to have come out the other end actually quite okay because of it.
And sounds like an actually interesting person, whereas some of them do come out of the end, but they're wankers and they're notorious because they've been running around Hollywood their entire lives.
They were never allowed to sort of realise who they were and make decisions for themselves and suffer consequences that made them grow as people. So they're not actually people now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I really was annoyed that I was never allowed to play cassette at the age of 8 on the West End in Les Miserables. But actually now in retrospect, I'm like, I got to have... Same as I was like, I'm annoyed that I wasn't picked to play Hermione Granger because I looked perfect when I was 10.
Oh, you would have been good.
I don't fucking
You
know.
would have been...
I'm not even going to lie. I had the buck teeth and everything.
I'm like, you would have been such a good Hermione
My
Granger.
hair was the like perfect bushy, like curly.
Did you audition?
No. I wouldn't have even have known how to have gone about that.
Right.
And my parents would not have let me have been a child actor, which at the time I was like, fuck you! And now I'm like, thank you. Because I'm so cool now, and like, I'm who I want to be, and I've made choices, and I've grown, and I haven't grown up on a set. Like, Emma Watson is probably, I mean, I don't know her, she seems incredibly lovely, and obviously she's so smart, but she did spend her entire childhood on a film set. Her entire childhood. That's something you're never going to get back.
No.
Your
And the
entire
pressure
childhood.
and the pressure of that.
Yeah.
Especially a movie like that. It's not just
Exactly.
some kind of small movie.
The entire world knows who you are. You will never be left. You can't just pop to Nando's for a like fucking sunset burger.
And I think these days it's so much worse compared to, say, back then in 1991 or 1990, because there weren't people hating you and hating your performances on the internet back then.
Yeah, people didn't have as much as a voice. Like, the general public didn't have a say or a voice.
Yeah.
Like Hollywood stars were whatever was put in the magazines, and
it was magazines, and it was controllable.
Yeah, and it was
a
the
lot of
late
things
80s,
then.
early 90s that the like paparazzi really came as a thing. My mum said she remembered it was like Princess Diana, really, that started that celebrity sort of thing, where all of a sudden your cellulite is being highlighted in magazines and what you're wearing is being judged upon, when it used to be this ethereal, mystical thing where you would just have a couple of facts about these actors, like they enjoy sushi, and like here's the perfect photo shoot. You're like, I enjoy sushi, and Elizabeth Taylor enjoys sushi. Oh, lovely. And like something that's really interesting as well, like you never really see bloopers from like old black and white movies.
No, I don't think I've ever seen any.
They would reuse the film. If there was a mistake, they would just put the film back in and film over it.
Okay.
So there was never any available. But some have recently come to light, and like it's literally like old black and white movies of like a Wuthering Heights adaptation or something.
Right.
And it's these like RP speaking actors like fucking up, and it's really bizarre. It's such a joy.
Oh, I need to watch some of these. That sounds amazing. Like
she like falls into this like person's arms, and she's like, "Oh, darling, I can't possibly. Will you just fucking put your foot where it needs to be, Harold? Right, let's go again." And like it's just wonderful because you just don't associate that sort of pristine time with mistakes.
With mistakes, no, I know.
And you don't, and therefore you don't see these people as human. Whereas now, when you can follow Kim Kardashian on Instagram, or even someone even more real like Evan Rachel Wood, who like is totally down to earth and legit on social media, and you know you're actually talking to her, you feel like you have more of a relationship, which then probably makes you feel like you have more of a chance to like shit on their performance and like talk to them as if you actually know them when you don't.
I think there was an elegance to those actors back then that there isn't now because of that separation, and that separation with the public was quite important. And also allowed people to go in and out of different roles without being... Now when you know too much about an actor, there's too much judgment that you have about, well, should they be cast in this and should they be cast in that? And I think there's one thing I don't like about acting today is you get far too much information about an actor's process before a movie has even come out. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, you knew what he was doing and what he was putting himself through, and that he was going to win that Academy Award before the films even come out.
The Academy Awards are pieces of shit. Now, that's not to say that I don't want a BAFTA, but like, but like they are stupid. Like they are just... They are kind of meaningless, and like I remember the day I learned that you had to lobby for an Oscar.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay, right, so it's all fucking meaningless then. It's all fucking completely. Why do we care that someone has an Academy Award then? Like I don't care anymore.
Like how you have to buy your own Hollywood star.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, you have to buy it. And it's like, I thought that was just given to you.
Yes.
No. You have to buy it.
That takes away all the kind of prestige and excitement to have these things, to have to the whole Oscar campaign. I just find very distasteful.
Yeah,
I don't know. It didn't. Is it quite recent? I feel like it didn't happen in quite the same way back in the past, and now it's become this machine where you have to do a kind of biopic, and there's that kind of formula.
Oscar bait. I've got cucumber written here because
I wrote that down as well. That was another thing, as there were a few lines, especially from Rose, that were just like humdingers. But that was one that definitely passed me by.
Straight over the heads of a 10-year-old.
What was it? Every
woman over the age of 21 should have a cucumber in the house.
Yeah.
And I was like,
oh my God. And there was another one where she says, like, have you ever had a 48-hour orgasm or something? And it's like...
And Suhanna's like, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Oh my God. Get me out of this conversation. So there was some quite edgy bits.
Yeah.
Of it. And definitely that whole storyline with Gus. Especially now. The boss thing, trying to like take advantage. Of course, he doesn't know that she's 17.
Yeah.
But he knows she's young and she's just started at this job, and he's going out with Rose.
Literally, like the whole thing is iffy, regardless of what's going on. He's awful. He doesn't really get a comeuppance other than he loses both women.
Yeah, no, he doesn't.
But there's not even like he gets pushed in the pool fully clothed or anything. Like, really, no.
Nothing that bad happens to him.
But the villains of the piece get their comeuppance, where the stoners like cover their car in shit,
in toilet roll and everything,
which is great. I've got here, this movie is stressful. I can't see the charming rogue behaviour. And I think that was as the kids were getting more and more stressful, and like Sue Ellen comes home and they've stolen all of the petty cash and bought like a diamond ring.
Oh my god!
And like a key, like a huge I don't even know what
it's like an entertainment center.
Entertainment system, yeah, where it's like VHS sound system, big TV screen. And like Sue Ellen comes home and she's like, "Where's the money?" And they're like, "Oh, we just bought all this stuff." And I'm like I felt sick. I was
it's like you'd kill them, wouldn't you?
Oh my god! And she actually, kudos to her, because she doesn't kill them.
No, I know. I don't think she gets angry enough.
No, she doesn't. She gets kind of angry, and then she's just like, "Look, I'm gonna go upstairs and have a bath. Just fucking don't do it again." And you're like, "Don't do it again." He bought a diamond ring.
Like a diamond.
Like a diamond.
It's like, why does he even know about diamonds? He's so romantic for such a small child. Yeah. It's creepy. Like, why do you know about diamonds?
But it makes sense that a child would be like, "I have a girlfriend, I'll get her a diamond ring."
I've heard about that somewhere, so...
But like, it's so much money, and you're just like, you guys aren't going to be able to eat.
Yeah,
like, what
and she's just basically like, I'm going to have to pay this, I'm going to now have to work for ages and pay this back in installments. It's just like such a huge... It's just it's made it pointless in effect, her even getting that job.
Yeah.
It's just like having to start again.
It's so stressful.
And then she finds out she could lose her job anyway because the people don't want the account with their fashion firm.
They're making uniforms for like waiters and chefs and school uniforms, and the people don't want them, so the company's going to close down. So Rose starts eating jelly beans from the jar, as like Sue Ellen genuinely like a stroke of like. Because if I was 17 and that happened and everything else had been happening, I would just be like... But she like goes down and she starts designing things. And she starts like being proactive, and then she's like super smart. She's like, okay, we're going to hold a gala where we're going to have a fashion show so we can show off these new designs to the account holders and see what they think. Take some money out of petty cash to hire a ballroom. And she's like, no worries, we can have it at my house. And I was
it's so smart. She kills two birds with one stone. One, the petty cash thing, so she can pretend that she's paid for everything for the company when she's not. She's making her friends do it for free.
Yeah.
And do the gala at the house.
Like, at 17, she's genuinely got some skills behind her. Like, genuinely. And then my note here, oh hell yes, the clean-up scene I've waited 1 hour and 15 minutes for.
Such a good payoff.
Oh, it's such a good payoff, Carla. Oh, they go to town. Because all of a sudden they're like, make sure you clean the pool. And I'm like, there's a pool? That means that there's a massive garden as well as this entire massive house. Nice. So not only do I get to see them clean the kitchen, I get them to see them clean the bedrooms and the entire house, and then the roof and the guttering and the windows and the doors and the porch, and then they go out into the garden and there's a huge swimming pool, and they're mowing the lawn, and they're like building ice sculptures and filling the pool. I know there are ice sculptures. It's good.
No, and it's nice as well because it's like it's not just the kids. It's like that you see people that you've seen that are Kenny's friends from his crew. You see some of the girls that are
the girls that come back from Europe
from the start. So it's nice. It's like they've got all hands to the pump for
and they're
Sue
willing to do it.
Yeah, and they want to do it. They're like, come on, let's do it. After refusing to clean up for the entire movie, they're like, right. Let's get shit together.
Do it. And every child is involved somehow doing something. Yeah. They like repaint the house. Like it's proper makeover house time. I honestly just sat there with like a massive grin on my face like, this is amazing.
I love those types of clean up scenes. They're so nice.
Deep cleaning.
And there's so much detail in it as well in those. I don't know how long the whole kind of sequence lasts for. It's maybe only a minute and a half, 2 minutes, but there's a lot of detail within that.
Yeah.
There are people up ladders, there are people with saws even and things. I saw a lot more in it than I'd noticed as a kid as well. I was like, oh God, there's an ice sculpture.
Yeah.
Someone's doing an ice sculpture.
Someone's fucking doing an ice sculpture and it's brilliant. And it looks amazing. They string these fairy lights everywhere, and then they all come down and they're all in like these fancy clothes. She's got her siblings being waiters. They've like
Kenny's made canapes. He's got fucking good at
He's
cooking.
had a haircut.
Yeah.
He's like scrubbed himself up.
Yeah, scrubbed up nice.
It's brilliant. And just before this has happened, I forgot my favourite scene. It's wonderful. She comes home and she's like, right, we've got to get on it. It's tomorrow and we've got to get on it. And Kenny turns around and he's like, why didn't you tell me you were going to be late home? I've been slaving all day over this meatloaf. It's now ruined. Like, why didn't you just... I'm sorry, I had a meeting. I had to stay behind and work on the account. Oh, but you couldn't take 5 minutes to just ring home? It's ruined now. I spent all day working on this. And you haven't even mentioned how nice the house looks. Well, I've been getting money to put food on this table. Yeah, food that I've... Like, the classic husband-wife thing.
Dynamic.
But it's with this 15 and this 17-year-old... like brother and sister, and also just the gender subversion where it's the woman that's been working
and in the traffic and going, do you think I want to be at the office all day for 8 hours sitting behind a desk? I'm in traffic I'm getting up at 5:30, and he's like, sorry.
It's so good. I was like, this is adorable. Yeah. Like, this is so much fun. And then they like reconcile.
Then
they
like, reconcile the house and they're so supportive to each other.
Oh God, it's so lovely. It's such a good payoff from all the anxiety that this movie caused me throughout. Then the way the family comes together and how clean the house looks, and like he's found a love of cooking and he wants to be a chef now.
Yeah, he wants to actually do something that isn't listening to Iron Maiden and like having bombs every day.
Literally, and he mentions it to one of his friends. He's like, I'm thinking about maybe like going to more classes this year and maybe going to chef school afterwards. And his friend is like, cool, that sounds great. And you're like, yay, even the friends are supportive.
Yeah, they're going, industry might be a good idea.
It's so lovely, it's so wholesome. So it all leads up to this big talent show, this big catwalk, where Sue Ellen is like showing off her designs to the account holders to see if they want to buy these new outfits for, as we've said, waiters and chefs and school uniforms and like referees. But because it's 1991, they're like garish pink with like harlequin designs and big chunky trainers.
Lots of glitter.
And everything that came out not only looked impractical for the job that they were about to be doing, but I was suddenly like, not to be an adult about this, but I see why uniforms are the way they are and not like this.
Not like that.
These are awful. And yet all of these account holders, this panel of white old men are like, taking notes. And you're like,
these are very cutting edge from poaching the millennium.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I mean,
this is horrific.
They look like girls from like a Madonna video or something like that. They all look like Cyndi Lauper. That's what they look like.
Cyndi Lauper gone wrong.
And they're all doing that kind of 80s dancing as well, like down the catwalk. But then the shit hits the fan.
Oh yeah, not only does Brian turn up in his like lane mobile, like
and he's like interrupting through a tannoy system.
Can you not see that there's like something? There's fucking parking. You've had to walk, you've had to drive through a bunch of cars. Can you not see that they've got not only company, but what's clearly like a gala event happening?
It is like,
and he's just
500
like,
people
I'm really sorry about the thing that I did. And it's like, not now, dude. That's the only like boombox outside the window moment that I'm like, I'm in a 90s movie. I forgot. Because I am literally like, Brian, read the room!
Yeah, like... Shut the fuck up, Brian, you're fucking up their shit.
Literally.
And it's a shame for, like, her friends, because she's having to go, like...
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Cindy. thank you, Cindy. Like, get off the fucking set, get off the catwalk. I mean, she's so like...
She's stressing out.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And there'd been a couple of moments before where Brian nearly found out that this woman who his sister like hates at work is actually Sue Ellen. There's a lot of close calls, but they hadn't been talking for a while because they'd had a bit of an
what's
argument.
weird is at one point they're in the office and the receptionist says something to Sue Ellen and says
"Can I
her
help
name.
you, Sue Ellen?"
Yeah, and she quickly disappears and Brian turns round and like she's disappeared already. But surely he'd go, oh, that's weird because that's quite an uncommon name.
Yeah.
And like, that's my girlfriend.
I think that. I thought that was going to be the moment that there was a reveal, but then I was like, I kind of let it slide because I was like, you're not going to assume that it's your Sue Ellen. There's no way in hell that you assume your 17-year-old girlfriend was the receptionist.
That's true.
That this woman was talking about.
That's
like,
true.
you just wouldn't assume it. So they'd had a bit of an argument about that, so they hadn't been speaking in a while. So I get that he wants to reconcile, but shouting down a tannoy during her important gala event is not the way to go about that, Brian. Not the way to go about that. So that's happening, and then all of a sudden, Kenny runs up and he's like, Sue Ellen, Mom's home! And I got like chills.
It's
I was
so
like,
good.
no, Mom, she's been so good. Like, please don't yell at her.
Yeah, I know, please don't get mad. And the mother is in like an Australian sort of outfit, just to remind you she's been
with
to
a
a
corked
strip.
hat. She's like, I'm back.
Yeah, no, she looks like Steve Irwin, but like a woman. That's how she's dressed. So it's like just reminding the audience she's been in Australia.
And like Rose is there, and Sue Ellen's like, oh God, everyone, I'm really sorry. I lied to everyone. I'm 17, and like, because even the receptionist found her ID. Photocopied it and showed it to Rose.
And Rose still was like, I
like,
don't give a fuck.
Fuck
You're
you.
a pathetic, grassing piece of shit. Fuck off.
I love it. I do love that, like, not once is Rose ever against Sue Ellen, because she really has no actual reason to be, because she is very much being like, look, everything you've done for me has been exactly what I've asked. You've been a really good friend, you've been supportive, and we've had a really lovely time. I don't care that you're 17. And then, of course, she comes up and she's like, I'm really sorry I lied to you. And she's like, honey, the account said that I was a genius for employing a 17-year-old to get market perspective. So, like, she literally wins everything. But, like, she's still feeling a lot of remorse and she's understanding the consequences of action. So even though everything's coming up roses, she's not like, haha, I got off scot-free. And then Rose is like, we'll meet for lunch on Monday. How about that? And she's like, yeah, okay.
I know, that's nice, that bit where it's like they're gonna... Because she says, oh, why don't you just come and be my PA? That's fine. She says, no, I think I need to go to college. And then Rose is like, I can pull some strings at Vassar.
Yeah.
So it's like, nice. She's going to go to...
She's going to get to a really
very
fancy
nice
one.
Yeah, very nice university. So she's got that sorted. But then it's like, oh my God, she's going to have to face the music with her mother.
Yeah.
How is she even going to explain this?
And she goes into the house, and obviously meanwhile the mum's been looking around and realised that there's been a paint job and we've got a new home entertainment system.
And it's really clean.
It's really, really, really clean. And
there are
Kenny's had a
canapes
haircut.
everywhere.
And Kenny's like, do you want a cup of tea? And then it's beautiful. Sue Ellen comes in and she's like, Mom, you're stressed, you've had a long flight, why don't you go upstairs, have a nap, I'll tidy up down here. Kenny's like, oh, I'll go do this. And the kids are like, we've sorted this out.
Yeah.
We're going to go up to bed now. Okay, honey, night-night, sleep well. And the mum's just like so
and they're
bewildered.
like, bye, Mom. I mean, Sue Ellen.
Yeah.
And the mother's like, what the hell's going on?
Because, of course, the mum could never get them to do anything she wanted.
No.
Sue Ellen's literally just been like, sweetie, can you go up to bed now? Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Like, it's like magic. And Sue Ellen's suddenly become the mum to her own mother.
Yeah.
Like, you go upstairs and have a rest. We'll talk about this in the morning, okay? And the mum's like, oh, okay. And just goes upstairs. And
Yeah,
like,
she just
this
has
is
to
brilliant.
accept it, yeah.
And then Brian's there and they reconcile and it's fine and it's really lovely. Their romantic relationship is really genuine and
It's quite
really
nice.
sweet. Like, it didn't feel forced. They genuinely had a lot of chemistry. Like,
Yeah.
it was really, really lovely. I was really on board with both of them. And, like, I wasn't ever, other than the tannoy, I wasn't angry at anything that they did. Because you think he's going to go, and then he turns around with the rose, and he's like, what are you doing New Year's Eve? And you're like, wee!
you're like, oh, they're going to see each other again.
It's sweet. And then, of course, the mum comes down and is just like, oh,
this
by
is
the
final
way,
line, so good.
Sue Ellen, yeah, Mum, where's the babysitter?
Bang, credits.
And you're
it's so fucking good.
Oh, yeah!
Because you've forgotten as well by that point.
Forgotten that the
And you're
babysitter
like,
existed.
fuck, yeah.
I literally said it out loud. I was like, oh, shit! And then what's wonderful is just after the credits play for a little bit, and then we cut back to those two coroners that brought her in from the trunk with the grave, laying some flowers on the grave, and they're like, bye, sweet old lady. You didn't even know her. Yeah, but she gave us a lot of money because she had all the money from the mum on it the whole time. And it's just a brilliant little bookend.
Yeah, where you go,
That's
oh
really
yeah.
funny.
And it brings it all back to the babysitter by the end. And brings her presence back into it. It's
so good. It was so uplifting and fun and inspiring. I was like, fuck me, if a 17-year-old can blag her way into a job as a PA to a massive fashion designer and like feed her 5 siblings and clean the like mansion that they live in.
Yeah.
I can fucking go to work for 4 hours and not cry. Like, honestly, I was like, Sue Ellen's got this, so like, I'm going to try and be a bit more like Sue Ellen.
Sue Ellen didn't have so many emails to deal with.
That's very true.
So maybe she would be crying if she did. But and also that Kenny, he turns things around so much. He goes from being very like slack but he's still always nice.
Yeah.
Those were always the bits when I was a kid and I was rewatching it. I was like, yeah, this is one of the things that really hooked me into this movie was Kenny and all his kind of scenes, because for me his sort of slacker stoner life just looked amazing. As a kid, I was like, you know, I just want to like that looks really. I haven't had that drug, but it just looks fun what he's doing. There's a bit where she's told him as well, you better do the dishes today, and then you see him and he's just standing like on the roof with his friends and they're clay pigeon shooting all the plates, and it's like that looks really messy but like really fun.
I knew it. I knew there was an element of me that was like, I bet Carla was like a Kenny fan.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is that what I loved about Kenny is he's got a tattoo that's the Rolling Stones tongue and lips, and I was such a huge Stones fan, so I was like, Kenny's into the Stones, so yeah, he's all right by me.
I think definitely as a kid, Sue Ellen would have been my hero.
Yeah, she was, and I think Kenny was my hero because it was all of that kind of rock and roll kind of stuff. And
even though, like, in theory I shouldn't have done, like, Sue Ellen was completely against everything that I took as a role model as a child. I always wanted the, like, bookish one, the one that was bullied, the one that was, like, a bit weird, a bit not normal, like the pretty ugly girl. Whereas Sue Ellen is, like, cheerleader material almost.
Yeah, she's cheerleader material. She's extremely mainstream.
Yeah.
She cares about things like... I think it's smart what they've done with it, because they've managed to make her not vapid despite all of those things.
Very sympathetic for a character that, in theory, especially in that era, was made out to be... But then a few of them did that, like Bring It On, although Bring It On was about 10 years later, which focused on the cheerleaders and showed them to be, like, human beings.
Yeah.
But usually Sue Ellen would be the villain in any other movie.
She'd be the villain and she'd be, oh my god, and like, so they do show an element of her being stuck up. They do show a kind of stuck upness, so I like that as well. They don't sanitize it too much. There are parts where you're like, Sue Ellen, you're being like a bitch.
Yeah.
But she never goes too far. She still stays. She's never evil.
And that's why
she's never too stuck up. She stays likeable.
Yeah.
And she discovers that she's actually able to sort of manage in this adult world somehow,
which is amazing to learn that.
And she's
17,
and you can see that she's not just like a wunderkind,
brave as well,
but she's bold,
because she just fucking goes with it. Whereas I would literally on day one be like, I mean, I wouldn't even have the balls to like lie on my CV
to do that,
let alone everything else that follows.
And one of the things I really like that I just thought was a little smart thing that I noticed in that is you see her have scenes in the workplace, and then she'll be with Rose and Rose will say something to her, about some sort of advice about her job, and then you'll see her talk to someone else at work in the same scene, and she'll repeat what she's heard.
Yeah.
So like Rose will say, "Don't get too overwhelmed," and then you see her say that to Kathy.
Yeah.
So you see her actually picking up, "Oh, I remember this
Like
line,"
leadership
and use it again.
and like, it's really, honestly, like, I know it sounds silly to say that it's inspiring, but it genuinely was. Like, they all are excellent role models because they all grow and learn. And if there hadn't been a babysitter and Sue Ellen had just had full reign of the car, none of them would have learned any valuable lesson that summer.
That's true.
So, like,
she would have just gone to the beach,
yeah,
and hung out.
never
and
met
would have
Brian.
Done. Yeah,
Kenny wouldn't have wanted to go to culinary school.
and they're all nice kids, essentially.
They are,
and
they're,
that's
they're
quite
all
nice.
like, as I said, they're all like fully rounded characters, which is nice. They're not just stereotypes.
And they've managed to do that somehow it's not, the film isn't too long, and they have to kind of set up those definitions of the characters at the very beginning, and they managed to do it very quickly, so that you understand they're all different, but without making it feel like they're too stereotyped.
Yeah, definitely.
I think of its kind and genre and time, it's held up actually quite well.
Honestly.
I thought, God, this is quite good. I thought I'd watch it now and think this is quite shit, but I think it's quite good.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what to expect at all. Like, I avoided any sort of information about it before I watched it, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised.
You probably thought as well, this is Carla's film?
Yeah! I was like, this is so, like... And not that you're not responsible or adult, like, of course you are, but especially as a kid, I've just got this image of you as, like, a little Mowgli type. Like, I don't know why, just, like, causing, like a little pixie running around, leaving, like, whoopee cushions on people's chairs and stuff. So I thought your movie would be this sort of, like, anarchic sort of, and it is to an extent, but it's also, like, so my movie in that, like, everything gets tidied up and everyone learns valuable lessons and we all grow as people, and, like, I loved it. I genuinely did.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. I was so excited
I would
to know
watch
what
it
you
again.
thought. Yeah.
Like, if I caught it on TV, I would watch it again. Like, I genuinely would.
Yay.
I thoroughly recommend, if people haven't watched it and you want to show something to your kids, maybe start them off age 10 with this, just because there's some, like, sexual references.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know what the rating was. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a PG, but then, you know, it does differ. There's no bad language, from what I recall. Oh, it's a 15.
Well, see...
That makes so much more sense.
It does make sense, but I always thought it was a children's movie, like, when I was a child.
Yeah, because it's children are the main characters.
Yeah, it seems like a children's movie, like, rather than a teenage movie.
Maybe today it would be more like a 12A.
I think so. I think if you literally took out the bits about orgasm, the cucumber...
Yeah.
Really?
But then
those are
the cucumber joke...
That could go over your head.
Should go over your head.
It went over mine.
So that's not bad. It's the, like, overt sort of sexual references. Like
seems much.
It seems a lot, yeah. Because there's not...
what actually happens. There's no nudity.
There's no nudity.
There's no
it's
fighting.
Not dark. There's no blood.
No.
It doesn't get, like, scary. It's just more than anything Gus, really.
Yeah.
I think it's Gus's character that's pumped it up to a 15.
Yeah.
And if you just sort of censored him a little bit...
Yeah, that could be a PG or a 12.
Easily a PG. I honestly thought it would be like a PG. Like, it's obviously not a U, but... You're right, it's really not... I'm really surprised that it's 15.
I had always assumed it was... maybe a PG
and
or a 12.
Maybe that's why it's more like a sort of cult movie, because kids can't watch it at 15. Adults wouldn't watch it at 15. Like, a 15-year-old isn't going to watch Don't Tell Mum the Babysitter's Dead. Really, are they? Because this is very much about... Well, it's about teenagers coming into their
yes,
own.
Maybe they would.
So maybe it is aimed... But films aren't really aimed at 15-year-olds, even though there's a 15 rating. Movies are either aimed at adults or children. You very rarely... Teen movies tend to be paranormal romances.
What, like Twilight and things,
where everything's a bit safe. You don't really get coming of age stories for teenagers.
I don't know, maybe Ferris Bueller's Day Off, is that a kind of
well,
one
again,
that's
and
for
that's like
teenagers?
sort of 80s, that Breakfast Club vibe, that
Yeah.
Pretty in Pink vibe. So yeah, I think it's just nowadays I can't think
they aren't marketed in that way.
nothing's marketed to like teenagers in the same way, other than like Divergent and like the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
But like, you don't really get a coming of age tale so much anymore.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. If you can think of anything recently, email in. But yeah.
But yeah, I think this is a nice, solid, comforting film that still has a kind of punk undertone.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not too tame. Just with some really funny, like, random bits as well.
Yeah, it's genuinely funny. The relationships are sweet. Christina Applegate fucking kills it.
Yeah.
This was written for Winona Ryder.
Really? I didn't know that. Oh yeah, I think. Yeah, it would have been very different.
Completely different movie. Don't get me wrong, I fucking love Winona Ryder, and she was my people. She was the weirdo. She was the outsider, like with the Heathers and the Edward Scissorhands, and then even Dracula. Like, she was my woman. But it really works with Christina Applegate.
Yeah, I think this needs someone that isn't perhaps as dark in some ways and is eccentric.
Edgy.
Yeah, I think
Winona Ryder is more the Kenny role.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas for this to work and for it to be as good as it is, you do need like
an everyman,
like a Kirsten Dunst person. But Christina Applegate is a fabulous actress. Like I think she was like 19 when she was filming this. So like,
and she was huge at this time.
Yeah,
she was like the big thing, wasn't she?
Yeah. I mean, this was her first feature, but then she went on.
She was in a TV series or something, wasn't she?
Was she?
Married with Children or something, so she was quite famous. So I think she's got this from that.
Right.
And she was the kind of girl pin-up, I think, at the time.
Yeah, it makes sense.
She's mentioned in Donnie Darko.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he's been hypnotised by the therapist, and he doesn't realise he's starting to basically...
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and he mentions her, like, I fantasise about her in class and things.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Well, thank you for watching.
Oh my god.
This and inviting me on. I've had so much fun.
I honestly love it when people bring movies that I've never seen before, because I've now seen this movie and I can tell people to watch this movie, and it's great, and like my little movie knowledge has expanded that little bit more. Something I never ever would have watched. Like, didn't even know to watch it. And it's made me really interested now in this sort of like teenage coming of age genre. I'm gonna like be Googling a lot about that. So thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you.
I hope you've had fun.
Yeah, I've had so much fun.
Yay! Do you have anything to plug? Where can we find you on social media? I know we've been very anti-social media this podcast. But...
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Carla Kayani-Lawman, and I'm on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram, and no, have nothing to plug. Hire me for acting job. Hire me for voiceover. I've got a nice voice.
Yes, she does.
You've heard it for about an hour and a half.
Yes, this is a perfect advert for people's voices. I've been Emily Slade. You can find me on Twitter at EmilySlade1. You can find me on Instagram at EmilySlade001. Why This Film is on Instagram at Why This Film. We're on Twitter at Why This Film. We're on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast. And you can email into us at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com. We will see you next time. Thank you for joining in. Don't forget to rate and subscribe and like and share and comment and just talk about us all the time to anyone that you've ever met. All three of you that's listening right now. We'll see you next time on Why This Film. Bye!
Bye!
We watched the
film and we talked about it, but now it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back again with another movie that makes you wanna ask why.
Why?